So most, if not all of us, have been to the Disneyland Resort. And while in the parks, we like to think about the entertainment, the attractions, and most importantly, the food. And what some of us don't know are some of the services the resort offers, and other than those three things I mentioned. And today I want to explain to you the way the Americans with Disability Act works at the Disneyland Resort. It's not working. Okay.
Maybe the door has
It shouldn't have to be open. We'll pause, hang on a second. I don't know why it's working for me.
Okay, so what we're going to talk about is what is DOS and how it works, and my experience with DOS as a cast member. So what is DOS? The DOS card is designed to accommodate guests who aren't able to wait in a conventional queue environment due to a disability, including non-apparent disabilities. So anyone that does not use a wheelchair or walker or ECV, anyone can have a disability, but it doesn't have to be visible. So how it works. So depending on which park you go to, if you go to Disneyland, you want to go to the City Hall, which would be in Disneyland. If you would go to California Adventure, you'd go to the Chamber of Commerce, which is that building right there in the middle. And once you get there, to either one, a guest relations cast member will discuss with the guest on what accommodations they need. And a guest whose disability is based on a wheelchair or ECV does not need this DOS system. And what the DOS system stands for is Disability Act Service, which is the same thing as the Americans with Disability Act. It's just named differently. And a person who has a wheelchair ECV doesn't need one because everything in California Adventure is ECV and wheelchair accessible. And Disneyland too would accept those people with a wheelchair or an ECV would just go through the exit instead of going through the regular line. And right here to your left is a cast member that is a guest relations one, and that paper down there is the same one up there. And as you can see, the first attraction would be the Haunted Mansion, and they would write them a current wait time of the attraction and what time they would return at. And basically, you just need your park ticket, and the guest relations cast member will scan a return time for you. And then once that person that has a disability will get their picture taken, and they would just have this as like a guideline. And we no longer really use the paper ones because back then guests would forge signatures and they would put other attractions and pretend that a customer signed it so they could get into other rides. So now everything's electronic. We still have the paper ones just in case if the system ever fails. And right here, I'm going to talk about my attraction, Goofy Sky School, and how it works. So right here on the top left, you can see we use an iPod to scan your park ticket, and right there would have the return time. The person with a disability and their whole party would go. And those two pictures on the top right and bottom right, that's basically like a little lanyard that has those two things together, and you'll just scan it, and that would act like your pass. And the person with the DOS would go through the Fast Pass line instead of going through the regular line. And when you go through Fast Pass at Goofy Sky School, you will meet up with a cast member that's called a merge position. And that person's responsibilities is to ask the person if they have a wheelchair or ECV or anything that they might seem like they have trouble getting into this small vehicle. Those vehicles keep moving, so we like to ask them, are you okay in transferring while the vehicle is in motion? And if they say no, we have no worries, and we'll stop the vehicle motion and they'll get in, and we let them take their time and everything. We don't like to rush them. We always like to make sure the guests are just comfortable with everything. And so as you can see, right here is the standby. Right here is the standby, right here is the Fast Pass, and it just wraps all the way around. And this is where the DOS people would go. And right here is the front, so basically the people would go up to the front and it was like, hey, I have a return time, we'll just scan it right off. So once you go to one attraction, you could go to another guest relations kiosk, and they will give you another return time for another attraction that you would like. So you could just go about your day and just go to the attraction whenever your return time is up. And now I would like to share my experience with the DOS Pass. The other day I had a guest who had a DOS situation and all of that, and I was a grouper, which asks the person, oh, how many here, and this little girl was in like a little wheelchair that looked like a wheelchair, and they got on, and once they were gonna get off, this girl threw a tantrum. She like fell on the floor, and she was screaming and yelling, and in my situation, I wasn't really trying to get them out of the line so she wouldn't be yelling anymore. And I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna, because she wanted to go again, but every guest in line was waiting, like, okay, well, let's go. So what I did was, I was like, do you know what, like, do you guys want to go on again? And they were like, yes, please. And I was like, okay, you guys can stay on. And the girl was so happy. And she had nothing wrong with her. She looked like a regular person. So no one has to have a visible disability for us not to accommodate them. And I let them on, and once they got off, I was still there, and the family was really grateful, and they were telling me how much they enjoyed their visit and how I really helped them out because no one else in the other rides would help them out as well. So yeah, so if anyone has anyone out there that can help them out with the DOS Pass, like, just let them know. And thank you.
So Enrique, what did you think?
I thought it was really good and interesting. I really liked the speech and the topic, and I liked how you pretty much described the whole system good, and and you went through it pretty good. And the visuals too. I like the visuals. How they really helped a lot. Get the whole DOS system. Just a little bit. It was a little bit too much visual. Sometimes I get distracted from looking at it while trying to listen to you. But other than that, it was really good.
All right, I thought you had a nice common reference at the beginning to an experience that everybody's going to have. You told us what the topic was pretty effectively. I think that you explained, how DOS is really the acronym that's being used by the Disney park to address the Americans with Disability Act. I thought that was pretty clear. Your goal, I think, was also pretty clearly stated, and I think there's a reasonable justification here. I think you could probably do a little bit more with it to make it more compelling to the audience. If you had any information about the frequency with which people who have these kinds of issues visit the park, if you had some statistic about the number of these DAS cards that get distributed any given day when the park's open, something like that, I think that would help a little bit. I didn't really detect much of a structure here. It seemed like you were right into the definition almost immediately. And I like the definition. I do think you need to explain a little bit more what some of the non-apparent disabilities would be. For example, there could be an issue, I don't know what the child's issue was that you mentioned at the end, but there could be a problem with them having Asperger's or some kind of developmental issue that's going on there. There could be people, for instance, who have heart conditions that maybe make it difficult for them to stand a long period of time, or they have irritable bowel syndrome, or who knows what kinds of things people are talking about. But it's one of those things where people go, well, what are you talking about? I can guess at a lot of those things, but other people in the audience might be sitting there going, well, if you're not in a wheelchair, what the hell are we talking about? And so they don't really have much of a clue, and I think you could do a little bit more to explain those sorts of things. I thought that you explained the process pretty well. You describe how you try to accommodate the guests. It's interesting that you suggest that the previous system was abused by guests, and I don't doubt that that was true. That's the reason they got rid of it. Maybe that's in part. My guess is that electronic technology is getting rid of almost all the paper stuff that's going on, so it's much more likely that everything is, I mean, see, do you guys even know the ticket system that they had when Disneyland opened first? You know, A, B, C, D, and E tickets. You know, it's like I went to Disneyland when they had paper tickets and you actually had those kinds of things, and then they just got rid of that kind of stuff. So it's like technology changes, policies change, and you know, who knows what the reasons are sometimes. In this case, I think it's probably mostly technology. I kind of like the analogy that you draw now. It's been forever since I've been to Disneyland, but I have heard of the Fast Pass system. I've not been there since they've adopted the Fast Pass system. But yeah, that's how long it's been. It's been forever. I have not been there since then. And it all sounds much better than standing in line for 3 hours waiting to get on the damn Pirates of the Caribbean. But you know, I thought you did a good job drawing a parallel, you know, that it's equivalent to that kind of thing, and that you are mostly accommodating guests so they don't have to stand in line. They can get in the exit. Getting on and off the rides, for instance, if they're moving, you know, that's one of those things that you can do. You step on one of those moving walkways and you get on something, and a lot of people can't do that for all kinds of reasons. You know, suddenly you've inspired me. Maybe I can take my wife to Disneyland again, because she has this vertigo thing that's going on, and like the idea of stepping onto a moving sidewalk and then trying to get into a ride, that's never going to happen. We're gonna stop the damn ride for everybody. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get that DOS card and I'll take her to the Disneyland park. You know, the visuals. Look, I think you did an okay job. You're mostly identifying places that we're looking at here. And there was the one form that we did get a chance to look at that apparently is no longer being used anyway. But the idea there is that there is a system for doing it, and I thought you showed that pretty well. It doesn't add a lot of information to the speech, but it does it gives a little bit more structure than I think you were giving it, and I think you need to do a little bit better job at organizing things. I thought you had good audience contact and spoke to us for the most part. When you talk about stuff that you know, that should be the case, but one of the other things is when you talk about stuff that you know, you think, well, I can just explain it. I don't necessarily have to structure it as much, and I think you do need to structure a little bit more. I'm looking at your outline, and there's a structure here, and it should just be clearer to the audience. All right, thank you.